In a sun-drenched valley lived a young boy named Ryan, who preferred the gentle shade over the grueling, muddy fields. His simple daily chore was to stand in the swaying rice paddies and chase away the hungry flocks of birds. Yet, even swinging a wooden stick felt like far too much effort under the blazing afternoon sun. Instead, Ryan ingeniously strung long ropes between tall wooden poles across the golden field. Resting comfortably on a soft bed of hay, he simply tugged the master rope to rattle bamboo bells whenever a shadow passed. The sudden, violent clatter sent the startled birds scattering into the blue sky, while Ryan never even stood up. His weathered father watched from afar, silently worrying what would happen to the farm if his own health ever failed. The fragile illusion of safety shattered when a ruthless, scorching, dry season swept mercilessly across the valley. The relentless heat cracked the earth, and Ryan's father collapsed into his bed with a severe, shaking fever. Thrust completely alone into the unforgiving reality of farm work, the notoriously lazy boy struggled desperately to survive. His soft hands blistered as he hauled heavy wooden buckets, but the parched soil drank the water too quickly. Within a few agonizing weeks, a desolate sea of dying crops replaced the vibrant green fields his family depended upon. One devastating night, Ryan sat alone in the dirt, hot tears of uselessness crashing heavily over his trembling shoulders. He stared at his blistered palms in the moonlight, realizing his family's only hope for survival was rapidly fading into dust. The next morning, the sharp beating of a royal drum echoed wildly through the narrow dirt paths of the village. Standing atop a wooden cart, a royal soldier in gleaming armor shouted a grand proclamation from the great king. A massive tournament of strength and wit was to be held, rewarding the ultimate victor with a heavy chest of pure gold. Realizing this grand prize could save his dying family, the boy who never worked hard boldly stepped forward. A chorus of cruel, mocking laughter erupted from the rugged villagers as they stared in disbelief at the scrawny boy. Ignoring their venom, Ryan packed a meager bag and hiked for 3 grueling days to reach the Golden Palace gates. He arrived at the edge of a massive, shimmering blue lake, surrounded by an intimidating sea of battle-hardened warriors. A booming voice announced the brutal first challenge, a desperate race to cross the freezing, vast lake. Only the first 3 competitors to successfully drag themselves onto the opposite shore would advance to the finals. A booming cannon fired violently into the sky, sending hundreds of massive men diving into the dark, freezing depths. Ryan remained perfectly still on the muddy bank, knowing his weak arms would give out long before the middle. Sprinting wildly into the thick woods, he rapidly gathered fallen branches and coiled lengths of strong green vines. With bleeding fingers, he lashed the rough timber together to form a crude but sturdy wooden raft. He forcefully snapped a wide piece of thick bark from a tree trunk to serve as his reliable, makeshift oar. Pushing the raft into the water, Ryan realized, with a quiet smile, that this was a race of crossing, not swimming. While the massive warriors thrashed blindly in the cold water, Ryan glided smoothly over the rippling surface. He rhythmically plunged his bark paddle into the water, using his intelligent mind to save his precious physical energy. One by one, he steadily passed the gasping giants who were desperately struggling just to stay afloat. As the opposite shore materialized, Ryan drove his wooden raft onto the sand, claiming the 3rd qualifying spot. The sun rose brightly the next morning, casting long golden shadows over the Grand Colosseum for the final showdown. Before each contestant sat a colossal, perfectly square block of solid oak wood that looked utterly impossible to move. The royal judge bellowed the final terrifying rule. Each man had to manually push their massive block 1 full kilometer. Behind the blocks lay a vast armory of gleaming tools, but the rules strictly commanded they could only choose one. The first giant roared, snatched a thick hemp rope, and began dragging his block with explosive, agonizing force. The second warrior grabbed a heavy iron rod, wedging it deeply beneath his wooden block to painfully lever it forward. Ryan did not rush, knowing his slender frame would break entirely before that immovable mountain shifted a single inch. Slowly and deliberately, he walked past the heavy ropes and massive hammers, picking up a small, razor-sharp carving knife. The aristocratic crowd gasped in utter confusion as the scrawny boy raised the tiny blade into the harsh sunlight. Instead of pushing the immovable wood, Ryan sat cross-legged in the dirt and began to furiously carve. Shavings of pale oak flew wildly into the air like golden snow as the sharp blade bit deep into the heavy corners. He completely shut out the mocking laughter of the crowd, his eyes burning with the desperate image of his starving family. For one agonizing hour, his hands moved in a mesmerizing blur, transforming the rigid square into a smooth, flowing curve. By the time he lowered his blistered hands, the impossible obstacle had been beautifully sculpted into a perfectly round, wooden sphere. Ryan slowly stood up, placed his hands against the smooth surface, and gave the once heavy wood a gentle push. The colossal wooden ball rolled gracefully forward, gliding effortlessly over the dirt track with a mesmerizing momentum. Further down the agonizing road, the two muscular giants were drenched in sweat, viciously fighting their jagged blocks. They watched in absolute horror as the skinny boy casually strolled past them, guiding his massive sphere with one hand. The gentle spinning of the carved wood hummed a triumphant song over the scraping agony of his exhausted competitors. With a final, triumphant push, fueled by an unbreakable inner will, Ryan sent the ball rolling straight across the finish line. An explosive wave of deafening cheers erupted from the stands, shaking the ancient foundations of the majestic palace. No one had ever expected a notoriously lazy boy to definitively conquer the strongest men in the land. The incredibly heavy chest of gold was gently laid at his feet, a shimmering promise that his family would never starve again. Ryan fell hard to his knees, tightly clutching the heavy gold, as warm tears of relief washed away the dirt on his face. In that blinding moment of victory, he discovered that a creative mind could conquer mountains when fueled by a burning purpose. A profound love for his family had forced the lazy boy out of the shadows, transforming his desire for comfort into ingenuity. His miraculous journey proved to the world that even the deepest lethargy can be shattered when the heart finds a true reason to fight. You may sometimes feel the paralyzing pull of laziness, tempted to sink into the comfortable shadows of inaction. But if you dig deep and find a breathtaking goal, whether saving your family or chasing a dream, you will awaken the unstoppable giant within you.